medical deal, so I will do my best to fill in. So bear with me a little bit as we kind of work through the procedures here. As chair, it's really good. First, we'll call this meeting to order. This is the Police Policy Committee. It is November 20th, 2025. The meeting's at 10 a.m. We are at DPSST in the boardroom. First, I'll start off by reading administrative announcement. This is a public meeting subject to public meeting law and will be digitally recorded. Deliberations of issues will only be conducted by the Police Policy Committee members unless permitted by the chair. Remember to always state your name for the record. For cases dealing with denial or revocation, only information contained in the staff report can be considered once the staff report is adopted. Assumptions, outside knowledge, or personal experiences should not be included in any discussion. Individuals who engage in disruptive behavior that impedes official business will be asked to stop being disruptive or leave the meeting. Additional measures may be taken to have disruptive individuals removed if their continued presence poses a safety risk to other persons in the room or makes it impossible to continue the meeting. One additional note before we get started on these cases: if you have any conflict or position that you need to make us all aware of and you need to recuse yourself, just please let us know shortly after our introductions. We'll do that. So we'll turn it over to Vaughn for intros.
When I call on you, please state your name and who you represent for the record. We'll start with you, Chair Cotting.
Casey Cotting, Oregon State Police.
And then online we have Member Sarek. Oh, I don't believe we can hear you. Yeah, we're still having troubles hearing you. I'm sorry. You can try leaving and then coming back. And with that, we can just move on to Member Daniel.
Mark Daniel, representing Oregon Association of Chiefs of Police.
Perfect. And we have Designee Gajovic online as well. We're also not hearing audio from him. And please stand by.
Sorry to interrupt. No, okay. Sorry. Leaving the Teams meeting leaves the Teams meeting open. Very certain. I'm gonna unjoin this room from the meeting and then rejoin us. We will be right back momentarily. Sorry for the delay.
The YouTube audio is working, but the Teams audio.
Yeah, anyone that was over Teams I couldn't hear on YouTube either. For our friends online in Teams, can you hear us in the room?
I can hear you.
I can hear you.
Sorry about that, everyone.
All right, we can resume the meeting, and we will start with you again, Member Sarek.
Anel Sarek, Washington Sheriff's Office, Non-Management Law Enforcement.
Designee Gajovic.
Yeah, Chris Jovic, Deputy Chief, Portland Police Bureau.
Member Dresser.
Kevin Dresser, Tiger Police, representing non-management law enforcement.
Member Duncan.
Michelle Duncan, Sheriff, representing the Oregon State Sheriff's Association.
Member Livingston,
Teresa Livingston, Oregon State Police.
Member Lofgren,
Patty Lofgren, public member.
and then we have Member Wood.
Robert Wood, represent the public.
And then I do believe we have a guest online, Chief of Grants Pass, I believe.
That's correct. Warren Hensman, Chief of Police, Grants Pass PD.
Thank you for that. And then I believe we can also start with staff introductions, and I will go ahead and introduce myself. Juan Lopez, Executive Assistant, DPSST. And then we will begin with our only member online, staff member, Cindy.
Cindy Park, DPSST.
Thank you.
Eric Riddell, Criminal Justice Support Specialist, DPSST.
Melissa Bacho, DPSST Case Coordinator.
Phil Castle, DPSST.
Marie Atwood, DPSST.
Sam Tanny, DPSST. Ben Hamilton, DPSST.
Jennifer Howell, DPSST. And Kathy Calpine, DPSST.
Sam Willits, board member.
And with that, back to you, Chair Connie.
Okay, we'll start with the meeting minutes. Has everyone had a chance to review the minutes from our previous meeting? Any requested modifications? Okay, looking for a consensus to confirm the meeting minutes from last meeting. Okay, looks like we have consensus. Any objections? All right. Now we're gonna move into administrative closures. Turn it over.
Thank you. Melissa Bacho for the record. The department prepared an administrative closure of a professional standards case for the committee's consideration. The closure is on a consent agenda for the committee's review. DPSST is seeking a vote to approve or return the case from the committee today. Thank you.
Are there any questions or is there discussion regarding this administrative closure? Okay. Seeing none. Are there any of the recommended closures need to be removed from the consent agenda? No? Okay. Now I'm looking for a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented.
Mark Daniel for the record. I move to approve the consent agenda.
Kevin Dresser, I'll second that.
Okay.
All right. We are voting on a motion to approve the administrative closure consent agenda. Vice Chair Finn?
Aye.
Committee Member Sarah?
Aye.
Committee Member Daniel?
Aye.
Committee Member Jovic?
Aye.
Committee Member Dresser?
Aye.
Committee Member Duncan?
Aye.
Committee Member Livingston?
Aye.
Committee Member Lofgren?
Aye.
And Committee Member Wood?
Aye.
Motion passed.
Okay, we have 4 cases in front of us today. I believe all 4 are here in person. And we will ask the first person here shortly.
Chair, are we taking them in order?
Yes.
Hurley, Farmer, McQueen, McNichols.
So farmers first.
No,
No,
not Hurley.
Hurley.
Yeah, I think one first and foremost.
Not early.
Okay. Morning.
Morning.
So we have Mr. Farmer with us this morning. You're gonna get 5 minutes to present. The timer will be there. There's not going to be a chance for any questions during this. When you're done, we'll move on.
Yes, sir.
Oh yeah, we need to present the case, sorry.
Thank you. Melissa Langbacho for the record. The department opened a professional standards case after receiving notification that Mr. Farmer had been criminally cited for assault in the 4th degree. The criminal charge stemmed from an incident when Farmer went to a man's house to speak with him about his relationship with his wife and hit the man in the head multiple times. The criminal case ended in a civil compromise with Farmer's insurer paying the man. Farmer's employer, the Multnomah County Sheriff's Office, conducted an internal investigation to review the incident. Their investigation initially sustained a finding that Farmer violated criminal law, endangered others, and caused discredit to the agency. Farmer grieved those findings, which were amended through a settlement agreement. The settlement agreement did not sustain a finding that Farmer violated criminal law, but did find that he caused discredit to the agency and an amended policy violation for appropriate action. The department reviewed all of the information submitted and found misconduct, that Farmer violated criminal law and has a criminal disposition for assault in the 4th degree after he entered into a civil compromise in his criminal case. Farmer physically assaulted a man, causing a significant physical injury. Farmer threatened further physical harm against the man if you were to look or speak to Farmer's wife. Farmer threatened the efficient operations of the Multnomah County Sheriff's Office when his conduct and place of employment were discussed in news articles, which threatened the reputation of the Sheriff's Office in the community. Farmer is here today to provide a verbal statement to the committee and submitted written mitigation for the committee's consideration. Mr. Vice Chair.
Okay, Mr. Farmer, when you're ready.
Good morning. My name is Mark Farmer. I know you guys don't know me beyond what was just presented and the information that you already have, but I'm a husband. I'm the father of 2 wonderful young children, and I've been a deputy sheriff with the Multnomah County Sheriff's Office for the past 10 years. We're here today because of the incident that was just referenced, an incident that occurred off duty a little over 2 years ago between me and another person. I'm not proud to be here today, sitting in front of you. That goes without saying. I want to just take this opening moment to say how deeply sorry I am for that incident, for my actions, both in that emotional moment and leading up to it that led to that event. You know, in this profession, we're held to a very high standard, and rightfully so. And in that moment, in my life, and in that moment in time, I failed to uphold that standard, and I'm here to publicly apologize for that today. These processes take a long time to play out, as you guys well know. I had a lot of time to reflect and look at not just that event, but what had kind of led to that point in my life as a whole. A lot of honest and painful conversations with a lot of people that I care about and care about me, and just kind of trying to evaluate where life kind of went off course. One of the lessons I learned through that early on with other people was that it's important to hold myself accountable before somebody else has to. And there's always different choices and decisions you can make. You're never, stuck with just one. So I also sought out counseling and formal mentorship, which is something I continue today, just to address kind of some of the underlying issues in my life that had led cumulatively to that point. There was a lot of conflict back then, several years ago in my life, both at work and at home. It was leading to a lot of stress that I didn't deal with well. I felt like I got to a place where I was very isolated and dealing with a lot of anger and depression and issues like that I've since worked to resolve. So all that to say, I recognize that these things didn't just happen to me, but they happened as a result of my own actions. And the Bible tells us in the book of Matthew that before you can address the speck in your brother's eye, that you got to first look at the plank in your own. And that's a lesson in humility that I had to learn the hard way, but that applies daily for me now. Very early on, my wife and I decided that we wanted to remain together, work towards restoration, reconciliation for our marriage and for our family. And I am proud to say today that my family's intact. my kids are doing well, and that I get to still be a role model and an example for them with the benefit of the lessons that I've learned through this process. I've just been given so much grace and support and understanding from so many people around me throughout this process, coworkers, friends, mentors, just other people. It's been hugely beneficial to me, and I'm extremely grateful for that. The sheriff's office went through their process, looked at everything, ultimately handed down discipline, which was warranted, and they also had the faith in me to allow me to come back and try to prove myself and apply the lessons that I learned through this process to my daily duties. So in March of this year, I returned to my patrol duties with the Multnomah County Sheriff's Office, and for the past 9 months, I've just been trying to apply those lessons on a daily basis, both at home and in the workplace. It's made a massive difference. There's a lot of peace in my life now that there wasn't before. I know this was a snapshot in time, and I wish I could go back and change everything. I obviously can't now, but I just want to speak to the fact that it's so helpful to me to be able to give that grace and encouragement back to other people now that was extended to me. It's no secret that in this profession, in our duties, we come across a lot of people that are at their own rock bottom places in life. Haven't been there myself. I feel like now I'm able to meet them with a sense of empathy and compassion that was maybe lacking before a little bit. I'm grateful for that, and all credit and glory to God, because I wouldn't be here in this position without him. I don't want to minimize anything that happened. What happened back then, several years ago, there was nothing good about it, but I did want to come here today and look at you guys and tell you that there has been a lot of good that's come out of it, both for me and other people. I don't know what's going to happen, but I plan on continuing to take steps forward and to apply these lessons daily for the rest of my life. So thank you for your time today. I appreciate it.
Okay, thank you. Feel free to remain seated in the back row. Okay, we'll start with adopting the record. Is there discussion for an adoption? Any considerations on the record before we look for a consensus? Okay, looking for a consensus to adopt the record. Okay. Committee has confirmed the record. Are there any objections to that? Okay. Now we'll start with aggravating and mitigating factors. And I'll open it up and remind you to state your name and identify aggravating or mitigating.
Mark Daniel for the record. I will say that it is mitigating that Mr. Farmer came and addressed us in person today and accepted responsibility for his actions.
Patty Lofgren for the record. Mitigating factor would be the number of letters of support of Officer Farmer.
Robert Wood for the record. In addition to that, Mark's wife submitted a long written report of support, which she was an involved party in an indirect way, so that goes to show character. Also, in his career, he's received multiple accommodations and awards.
I think Kevin Dresser for the record. I guess aggravating is obviously just the event itself. The fact that it occurred 24 hours more or less after kind of gaining this knowledge. There should have been a cool-off period or time to kind of rethink going over to this person's house. So that's concerning with his tenure on the job and just the ability to step back and make a decision. This almost a day had passed before deciding to drive over and have this incident occur. But I would agree with the mitigating circumstances with regard to, I felt that his 5 minutes with us was genuine, and I also see the career that he had leading up to this and the steps that he's taken to move on and to grow from this position, and the the fact that, you know, he's back with his agency and working the road. And again, I recognize also the letters from his wife and others, and so those play a lot.
Teresa Livingston for the record. The mitigating is everything that's been said, but his personal statement today was compelling. And then the many letters. Aggravating, to just kind of add on, not only was it, you know, a 24-hour kind of cooling off period, but he actively got his vehicle and drove to try to find where this person, making extra efforts to find where this person lived, to confront him versus just a happenstance encounter that then ended in an incident. So that would be aggravating.
Robert, with the record, additional mitigating is he took full ownership and acknowledged violating department policy. He also immediately called a sergeant, or supervisor on duty, Sergeant Brown. Going back to aggravating, there was some concerning behavior that occurred. First of all, an altercation did occur with injuries, whether it was provoked or not. He made several references about being a DT instructor and going into a defensive situation. Yet I think I think all officers are trained to keep a reasonable space distance, which is concerning because I don't think that occurred.
Kevin Dresser for the record. I had a hard time with the self-defense part of this. I can't kind of buy into that very well, and even with the DT instructor, part of that's de-escalation in those points. So I had a hard time with that. But again, I would agree, mitigating is, we've had other situations, I've had other people speak to me in this committee and not take full ownership, and it seems with his own statements here today and in writing, he is absolutely taking full ownership of his actions, behavior that day.
Michelle Duncan for the record. I would add I agree with the self-defense. I have a hard time with that as well, but also aggravating is a significant impact to his agency being in the media and the way that was perceived. Also aggravating is there was a prior incident of threatening a coworker. I think it's approximately like 8 months prior. I will say mitigating though is again reiterating the self-reporting right away. Also the fact that he immediately sought some assistance through counseling and other means. And I too found mitigating his statement here today that was, did seem genuine.
Anybody online? Okay, Casey Cotty for the record. I agree with what's been presented and shared. I do find it aggravating that this incident occurred where there's a physical altercation, then there's an additional time goes by, and then there's an interaction with another family member that I found concerning. It's threatening language and asserting things that there's no authority to assert, and that is concerning in a law enforcement professional is continuing that behavior related directly to this case.
Robert Wood for the record, I'd agree with that. That was a concerning encounter while picking up, but then again, look at mitigating. I saw that Mark Farmer a couple times tried to create distance and separate himself from that encounter. And I also believe there was some kind of incentive for the person that was videotaping to catch him. I'm not saying it was a setup, but it sure had that look to it.
Kevin Dresser for the record, I would agree. It seemed to be, at least from the video standpoint, it's instigated by the person videotaping versus Mr. Farmer. So again, that's the part, we only have that video, so going off of that video, that's how it appears to me also.
Okay, not seeing anything additional, I will ask case manager to review the identified aggravating and mitigating factors.
Let me know if I missed anything here. For mitigating, I have recorded that Mr. Farmer came and addressed the committee and took accountability for his actions. There were numerous letters of support, including one from his wife, that were mitigating. Also mitigating were the number of accommodations and awards that he's received while working as a law enforcement officer. His mitigation today was genuine, and he took steps to move on from the situation. His personal statement today was compelling. He took accountability and contacted his supervisor immediately after this situation. He took full ownership of his actions by self-reporting and sought assistance through counseling. He tried to create distance in the encounter at the school, and in the encounter at the school, the other party appears to be the instigator. For aggravating, I have noted that the events that occurred were aggravating. There was no cooling off period after learning offensive information. Within 24 hours after learning information, he actively looked for the person to confront, which led to the incident. The event occurred, and Mr. Farmer has experience as a defensive tactics instructor, which teaches distance during such encounters, which he did not demonstrate in his own life. There was difficulty by the committee in seeing the encounter as a self-defense incident. Prior to the incident, there was another issue where Mr. Farmer made threats to appear at work. There was a physical altercation and also an interaction with threatening language with another person after the physical altercation. Those are what I have recorded. I'm not sure if I got everything though, so please say something so I can add it.
Not seeing any additions. So we'll discuss the moral fitness violation categories, and just a reminder, the options are to affirm, modify, or negate, and in this case we're looking at misconduct. So looking for a motion to confirm the moral fitness violation.
Discussion? Robert Wood, for the record. The staff nor did the department identify dishonesty. We're hearing that we seem to have trouble with the self-defense idea, but I just think it's important to get on the record. I don't think there's not sufficient information to support the dishonesty claim.
Okay, any further discussion?
I'd make a motion to affirm the misconduct.
Teresa Livingston on second.
Okay.
We are voting on a motion to affirm the moral fitness violations as presented. Vice Chair Cotton?
Aye.
Committee Member Sarek?
Aye.
Committee Member Daniel?
Aye.
Committee Member Jovic?
Aye.
Committee Member Dresser?
Aye.
Committee Member Duncan?
Aye.
Committee Member Livingston?
Aye.
Committee Member Lockwood?
Aye.
And Committee Member Wood?
Aye.
Motion passed.
Okay, can we be reminded of the date if there were any action taken? For this is a 3 to 10 years, just as a reminder.
Yes, and then Melissa Langbacher for the record, just to note, in the staff report, I had listed if the committee was looking to take action that would be based from a date of November 23rd, 2023. That's incorrect. It would actually be January 2026, the date of the board meeting.
Okay. So we're looking for a motion to take action or no action in this matter. And just as a reminder, if we're gonna take no action, we need to include why there would be no action in this case.
Robert Wood, a question for staff, just because you said something, Chair, that we're only looking at misconduct. If we take action, it's a minimum of 3 years?
Is that a question for one of us?
Yes,
Sorry.
question for staff.
Minimum of 3 years, or is
That
it 0?
It is still a minimum of 3 years.
Thank you.
If we
3
take
years
action.
to 10 years.
From the starting date of what?
From January 26th.
January 25th of next year.
Correct.
Robert Wood, for the record, I'll make a motion that we take no action.
Patty Lofgren, for the record, I second that.
We are voting on a motion to take no action. Vice Chair Fong?
Aye.
Committee Member Sarah?
Aye.
Committee Member Daniel?
Aye.
Committee Member Jovic?
Aye.
Committee Member Dresser?
Aye.
Committee Member Duncan?
Aye.
Committee Member Livingston?
Aye.
Committee Member Lofgren?
Aye.
And Committee Member West?
Aye.
Motion passed.
Okay. There's no,
Yeah.
so- That's all right.
Yeah.
We're gonna do Hurley next. My apologies for the mix-up order. Yes, but before we start, Marie Atwood for the record, because the committee elected to take no action, we do still need a rationale on the record for why the no action vote was made. So because you made the motion.
Thank you. Robert Wood, for the record, considering all mitigating factors against the aggravating, yes, it did consume a lot of the department's resources. But I think enough time has passed, and with this testimony, with the letters of support, I think this individual's learned that lesson, and therefore I think it's basically, in my opinion, is, for lack of better words, time's over.
Teresa Livingston, can I add any justification? I think for me, it was like faced with the 3 years as the minimum that we could do. And not starting till January of 26 was why I landed where I landed. It was just seemed too much for the totality of all the circumstances.
Thank you.
Thank you, Rob Wood, for the record. Teresa Livingston actually worded that much better. We've been working on a moral fitness work group on somehow getting a shorter time frame on misconduct.
Mm-hmm. Thank you both.
Okay, welcome, Ms. Hurley. We will get to a 5-minute period where you can give testimony, and before we do that, we will turn it over for a brief description.
Great, thank you. Melissa Langbatra for the record. The department was notified by the Portland Police Bureau that an investigation into allegations against Erica Hurley had been completed after her resignation. News reporting reflected that Hurley had left her position with the PPB for a position with the Vancouver, Washington Police Department. The PPB investigation included findings that Hurley was not truthful and made deceptive and misleading statements to an assistant chief to conceal the length of time that an officer had been cleared for duty. Records also reflect concerns that Hurley had been untruthful during an interview for the investigation. The Vancouver Police Department conducted their own investigation to determine if Hurley made untruthful statements while she was employed with the Portland Police Bureau, and if she made untruthful statements in her interview for the investigation which occurred while she was employed. The investigation was submitted as part of Hurley's mitigation, and the department noted that in that investigation that the Portland Police Bureau declined to make a number of witnesses available for the investigation and did not sustain findings of untruthfulness. The department found that Hurley gave intentionally misleading statements to the assistant chief about the length of time an officer was on light duty after the officer had been cleared for work. Hurley is here to provide a verbal mitigation statement to the committee, and the department is seeking a disposition for the case. Thank you.
Thank you. As a reminder, you have 5 minutes. We will not be answering any questions, and I do want the record to reflect that Member Jovic is going to recuse during this case.
Thank you. You ready? Okay. Chair and members of the committee, thank you for the opportunity to address the board concerning the allegations against me. I want to start by being very clear that I never lied to anyone in this investigation or anyone at the Portland Police Bureau. I have spent over 30 years in law enforcement, and I pride myself on my honesty and my integrity. I am requesting today that the committee reject these allegations and retain my police certification. I proudly served the community as a member of the Portland Police Bureau for over 25 years. I retired from the Portland Police Bureau with multiple medals, commendations, and no disciplinary action. My career reflects a lifelong commitment to integrity, accountability, and public safety. At every stage of my service, from patrol officer to deputy chief, I have held the standards of truth and professionalism expected in law enforcement, and I continue to uphold them today. The matter before the committee today arises from a Portland Police Bureau investigation conducted after I left the Portland Police Bureau, in which PPB sustained an allegation of untruthfulness against me. This allegation is inconsistent with my professional record, and more importantly, it is not supported by the facts. Because of this contradiction, my current employer, the City of Vancouver, commissioned an independent investigation to evaluate PPB's findings and to assess whether I committed any act of untruthfulness, and I welcomed this investigation to reveal the truth. The resulting report was comprehensive, fact-driven, objective, and devoid of political bias. I respectfully ask the committee to consider these independent findings in full. The independent review concluded that PPB did not adequately investigate potentially exculpatory or impeachment evidence related to the allegations against me, including that PPB did not investigate my documented allegation that Captain Dave Abrahamson filed his complaint in retaliation, despite strong evidence of motive and the delay in filing the complaint. PPB failed to interview critical witnesses, including officers who directly contradicted the complainant's version of events, even when these officers called PPB on multiple occasions and asked to be interviewed. PPB failed to include objective evidence such as dispatch logs, Bureau of Emergency Communication records, and sworn officer testimony that refuted the claims made against me. These were in the investigation for Vancouver. The primary accuser was found not to be a credible witness, with statements contradicted by multiple independent sources. The independent review also determined that the original investigation relied heavily on a witness whose testimony was influenced and unreliable. This witness was interviewed twice, and the independent review found that the witness's first interview reflected uncertainty, and he acknowledged that he may have misheard or misunderstood my statements. Months later, after discussion with the internal investigator and the original complainant, the witness's testimony shifted significantly for his second interview. The witness admitted that his memory was clouded by these outside conversations. Ultimately, the independent investigation determined that this witness was not credible. Thus, neither the complainant nor the primary witness relied upon for sustained findings was found to be reliable. The independent investigation made several conclusions: that the Portland Police Bureau did not adequately consider exculpatory or impeachment evidence surrounding the complainant's allegations against me, that the complainant's testimony was not credible, that the primary witness's testimony during his second interview was not credible. PPB's claim that my testimony was provably false was not supported by the evidence or by the circumstances. The review found no factual basis to support PPB's truthfulness allegation. Along with the independent investigation, I respectfully ask the committee to consider my full professional history and continuing law enforcement service as additional evidence to refute the supposition of a flawed investigation. I have over 30 years of honorable service, multiple medals and commendations for leadership, bravery, and service, 0 disciplinary actions in 3 decades, leadership positions up to the rank of deputy chief, a reputation for fairness, ethical behavior, and adherence to the highest standards of conduct. My record demonstrates the integrity that has guided my work throughout my career. The many letters of support that you have in your file confirm this work ethic, love for my career, and unwavering credibility. I respectfully request that this committee focus on the totality of the facts and not the flawed investigation by PPB. I am telling you, and the independent investigation makes clear, that there is no evidence that I lied. The allegations were retaliatory and unsupported. PPB's findings were not based on facts, but suppositions about a conversation remembered differently by everyone in the meeting. There is no evidence to question my integrity or my continued certification. For these reasons, I respectfully request that the committee retain my police certification. I am currently a sitting deputy chief, and the outcome of this hearing will determine any future career for me. I love my job. I love police work. I love serving my community. My father was a police officer. He was a sergeant with PPB for over 30 years. Both of my kids are police officers today. I truly love what I do. And the allegations alone that question my credibility have devastated me for the last 2 years. I did not lie. I believe if you thoroughly consider all of the information, you will conclude that I should be allowed to retain my police certification and continue my career in law enforcement. Thank you for your careful consideration and for your service today in this.
Thank you. You're welcome to stay seated or move to the back if you'd like. Okay, looking for a consensus to adopt or return the record as we have it. So consensus, yes. Any objections to adopting the record? Okay. We'll move into discussing aggravating and mitigating factors.
Michelle Duncan for the record. As I was reading the PPB's investigation, before I even got to Vancouver's outside investigation, I had some of the same concerns that were outlined. The timeline that it wasn't reported by the captain for months until allegation was made against him. The differences in the acting chief's, Bell's, memory the first time being interviewed, saying that he absolutely did not feel that he was lied to and did not recollect this, even though he may have came away from the same feeling of what was said, that he didn't recollect exactly what was said or not said, and even used the term that he could have misheard or misinterpreted what was said. I think I would agree with her statement here today. There were just a lot of flaws that I just don't find that this led to a determination of dishonesty.
Kevin Dresser for the record. I troubled with regard to the time frame in reference to the delay in reporting and the timing, how it looked with the captain in question having an issue brought up against him, so the timing didn't look good. And again, I've made note that this is a meeting that was brief, that was not recorded in any way. There was no notes taken. And I couldn't see an avenue of why she would lie in that meeting based on the circumstances and the topic it's in. And so in the recollection after the fact, that how it was recalled in different interviews concerned me. So I think that was mitigating in reference to anything aggravating.
Mark Daniel for the record. I find it, for mitigating, I find it difficult. And it was extremely difficult to go through and read the PPB independent police review investigation. I found a lot of inconsistencies. I did not care for the time frame which this allegedly occurred to the point where it was reported. The multiple interviews of the involved parties, kind of the changing of the story, and it just did not sit well with me. And I feel that that's extremely mitigating for the deputy chief, as well as, and I will say, it's mitigating for me that she and the entire command staff from the Vancouver Police Department has appeared today in support of her situation here before us.
Robert Wood for the record. I agree with committee members Duncan Drescher and Chief Mark Daniels. Although it's not an indication of strength, she did have 29 letters, because I actually counted them, of support, and it's not the number of letters, it's the theme that was painted of high integrity and a career of high integrity. It was overwhelming, actually. I want to follow up on committee member Dresser. When I looked at a dishonesty claim, I saw no motive for such. I can't see what would impel Deputy Chief Nelson to say that. So I think that goes to mitigating as well.
Teresa Livingston for the record. Of course, I agree with everything that's been said already. And it was also very concerning, and she brought it up in her 5 minutes, it was an incomplete report, and multiple people were left out that would have been key witnesses to try to understand the light duty time frame and all of that. And I agree, I didn't see any motive, and with the fact that it was incomplete, and it seemed very narrow scoped on who they interviewed. And I would go further in the with all the letters were very overwhelming, but when you look at who the letters are from, just an enormous amount of people from the Portland Police Bureau and their interactions with her throughout her career, from a bottom up. So the amount of support from that agency for her and her integrity over her career was very compelling.
Mark Daniel for the record. I wanted to mention one other thing and kind of bounce past the independent review, the IA investigation with Portland, to Chief Morey's letter. The fact that he recruited her, but then not only did he recruit her, but he put her through an intensive background investigation, which also required polygraph examination for the state of Washington. I thought that was very compelling, that she was able to get through all of that. Yeah, so that letter from Chief Morey was very compelling to me, and was very telling. And I will also say, with the independent review added on top of that, there was plenty of eyes looking into this, and it appears that all of those circumstances are mitigating, and I'm ready to move forward.
Michelle Duncan for the record. I just want to add a couple more mitigating. One, that the complaining party, once given the platform for an IA, the Captain Abramson, he went on a kind of like a tirade of all her misdoings, and one of those with the driving was actually proven to not be accurate, which I think discredits some of the rest of what he was saying. Additionally, I found that as I was reading the PPB internal affairs investigation, that it was trying to lead me to a place of dishonesty where I just, every time I read the facts, I couldn't get there.
Okay, anything further online?
All right, if we could review identified aggravating mitigating.
I have as mitigating that the investigation was leading to a finding of dishonesty, but was not supported by the evidence. One of the allegations made by the complainant was not founded, which partly discredited the reporter. The chief in Vancouver recruited and put Hurley through an intensive background process that was noted in his letter of support. There was plenty of evidence to show inconsistencies in the PPB investigation. The investigation by PPB was incomplete, and there was no motive for Hurley to be dishonest. The investigation had a narrow scope in who they chose to interview, and not only the number of letters, but who submitted letters of support was mitigating. The PPB investigation there were concerns that were similar to those that were outlined in the Vancouver Police Department investigation. The length of time that it took for the reporter to make a complaint, and that they the information could have been misheard or misunderstood. Initially, the person who was reported to be lied to didn't think that they were lied to. There was trouble with the delay in reporting and timing of the report. The meeting where the lie reportedly occurred in was brief. There were no notes or recordings, and it was unclear why she would have lied in that meeting. The time that passed, and everyone could have remembered something differently. There were inconsistencies in the investigation. Her appearance here today with the support of her agency was mitigating. There were 29 letters of support that paint a theme of high integrity, and there was no motive for dishonesty. Thank you, Vice Chair.
Okay, thank you. All right, so first we'll have a discussion about moral fitness violation categories, in this case, one of dishonesty, and we may affirm, modify, or negate altogether. So we're
Probably
going
for the
to
record,
discuss.
I move that we negate the dishonesty moral fitness violation.
Tracy Lewis, and I second.
Okay. No further discussion?
We are voting on a motion to negate the moral fitness violations as presented. Vice Chair Cotton?
Aye.
Committee Member Sarek?
Aye.
Committee Member Daniel?
Aye.
Committee Member Dresser?
Aye.
Committee Member Duncan?
Aye.
Committee Member Livingston?
Aye.
Committee Member Loughlin?
Aye.
And Committee Member Wood?
Aye.
Motion passed.
Okay, up next is,
Melissa, is it Nichols or McNichols? One
Nichols.
was, so Nichols next.
Who's next? Yeah.
welcome. You'll have a chance to present for 5 minutes. We won't answer any questions. Before we do that, we'll review the case.
Good morning, Mr. McNichols. This is Marie Atwood for the record, presenting on behalf of Jennifer Lavario, who is out of office today. The department opened a professional standards case after receiving a separation notice that reflected on April 24th of 2023, Jonathan McNichols was terminated by the Salem Police Department. The termination was in relation to an investigation of 3 separate on-duty incidents. all of which occurred in December of 2022. The first incident in question was regarding a DUII investigation in which Jonathan McNichols, as well as another officer, were in the area where a suspect vehicle had been reported by a complainant. The other officer personally observed who he believed to be Jonathan McNichols, either stopping or driving slowly behind a suspect vehicle. GPS data, as well as records of license plate being run, did reflect that Jonathan McNichols had followed and ran the license plate of said vehicle. However, Mr. McNichols indicated when questioned that he had searched the area and was unable to locate a suspect vehicle. This was also reflected in the CAD record that he produced that day. The second incident in this case was an arson investigation that had occurred on December 18th of 2022. What was initially reported as a small debris fire was later discovered to have been a very large fire on the side of an apartment building that heavily damaged the area, and the apartment building was determined to have had at least 5 occupants at the time. McNichols was among the first responders and did take photos and video of the apartment building. However, Mr. McNichols did not contact or interview any of the residents, despite the severity of the fire, to check on their welfare or assess any possible damage or property loss. The third incident that was investigated also occurred on December 18th, 2022, at about 3:20 in the morning. This incident occurred at a hotel in which a guest had attempted to discard of multiple firearms, over 100 fentanyl pills, a scale, and an iPhone in a hotel trash can. Officer McNichols responded to the scene and seized the items. However, he labeled them for destruction rather than investigating their source. There were several investigative steps taken by Mr. McNichols at the time that were not documented, including the following. He failed to document his search of the room, failed to photograph or seize items from the room, failed to document what was missing versus still inside the room, and failed to document how he obtained the suspect vehicle's license plate and did not run the named person in order to investigate the suspect further. The Salem Police Department Review Board investigated these 3 reported incidents. Regarding the driving while under the influence of intoxicants investigation, the SPD Review Board determined that they did not find sufficient evidence that he was intentionally dishonest during that incident, and therefore did not sustain a policy violation of untruthfulness due to that lack of intent. However, the review board did kind of, in total, affirm that they believe the issues presented by Officer McNichols' conduct rose above the degree of just mere performance problems. Notably, the SPD Review Board presented the question of, do we believe Officer McNichols would do the right thing in all circumstances, even when no one is watching? Unanimously, they agreed the answer was no, noting it is not simply that Officer McNichols made errors, but the clear inconsistencies between his statements, actions, and memory show a lack of integrity, and those inconsistencies cannot be reconciled. When questioned about his failure to document his investigative steps, Mr. McNichols repeatedly told the investigators that he wasn't sure why he had taken the actions he did. The department sustained or found sufficient evidence to support a dishonesty moral fitness violation in this case, despite the agency's determination that there was a lack of intent. Oregon Administrative Rule for police certification also maintains that dishonesty occurs when a reckless disregard for the truth happens. The department also found sufficient evidence of a misconduct violation due to Mr. McNichols engaging in numerous inconsistent statements, actions, judgments, and memory related to these 3 investigations. These inconsistencies amounted to a lack of integrity and credibility, which harmed the Salem Police Department. Mr. McNichols' actions harmed the public trust, which led later to his termination. Mr. McNichols is present in person today and also provided written mitigation for the committee's consideration. And with that, I'll turn it back over to you, Vice Chair.
Thank you. Okay, when the timer's ready, you'll have 5 minutes.
Hi. First, thanks for getting around to me. I know this process is long and arduous for all of us, so I appreciate finally having the ability to sit down and speak my part of the situation. Everything that she said is true. For me, the biggest thing that's left out of the entirety of my internal affairs investigation in this whole process is that shortly before these three situations, which, if you notice, they all happened within a pretty short amount of time. A couple weeks before that, I lost custody of my son, and about half the time, my baby son, by the way, he was only a few months old, and my marriage ended pretty early on in my career, and we were amicable, and I had 50-50 custody. Got to spend every waking minute with my kid. Got to raise him, got to watch him grow up. Shortly before these issues happened, my ex-wife took me back to court, took my custody, took about half my time. I was ordered to pay child support, which was, understandable, but an incredible financial burden. I was a baby cop. I was new to all of this. I became a cop when I was 35. I was pretty well on my way as a human being before I became a cop. I didn't take that well. Couldn't sleep, couldn't eat for about 2 months. So the fact that all these situations happened in about a week's time, there was actually about a month and a half's time where I was just a mess. I couldn't, like I said, I wasn't sleeping, I wasn't eating, I was working graveyard, I was grieving, not being around my son. And I did what I thought I was supposed to do, and I reached out to my supervisors, one of whom is the supervisor that filmed me driving through the parking lot past this vehicle, both which were members of the peer support team. One of them told me that this is part of the deal and figure it out and leave your personal life at home, and the other one ignored me. I sought counseling with the department therapist, which is on record. It's you can find that I did my due diligence to work this out, but ultimately I didn't know what else to do, so I put my head down and I went to work every day and I clocked in, and I did the best with what I was given. I don't know if any of you have ever suffered from like insomnia, but if you don't sleep for a couple weeks and then 6 months later people ask you really specific questions about that period of time where you weren't sleeping, you're not going to know the answer. And that's what happened here. With the it was referred to as a DUI investigation. It was a driving complaint call. Somebody called that a car in front of them was driving poorly. I went looking for the vehicle. Also, just a bit of reference. The evening of this call, I normally work the North District of Salem. On this day, I was sent to the South District, which I never worked. So I was in a new neighborhood, a new part of town that I was not familiar with at all. The car in question, I went looking for it. I turned one direction, I saw it drive past me going in the other direction, and then the gentleman who had made the call, driving behind it, flagged me down, pulled over and gave him a minute. He said, I'm the one that called, that's the vehicle that I'm looking for. I said, okay. At this point, those situations where people don't get to the point. So I finally said, okay, I'm gonna go, thanks for your time, but I'm gonna go turn around and find the car. The car had already taken off down I think it was State Street, or Hawthorne. I'm sorry, it's been a while since I've been on the streets of Salem. So the car was gone out of view. I made a U-turn, drove all the way down the street to the next signal, never saw it, turned around, drove back. This one block on Salem has 6 motels on it. It also has 3 individually named streets that are just the driveways to these motels. One of which was Kettle, which is, if you read through, there was communication back and forth between myself and the supervisor that opened this investigation, that he asked me if I'd checked the motel in Kettle, and I said no, but I will. That was an easier answer for me than which one is that. I don't want to look stupid. I didn't know which one was off Kettle. There's 6 motels on one street, and 3 driveways that are all individually named streets. So in the process of looking for this vehicle, I drove down to the next intersection, I drove back, and then I pulled into the first parking lot of the first motel. Made a couple loops. I was looking for a vehicle with a driver in it. I was looking for a moving vehicle. I was looking for signs of a driver. Never was this considered.
Thank you. That is your time. You may remain seated, or you can sit in the back. All right, so first we're gonna, look for a motion to adopt the record as is. Consensus on the record. Okay. And then we will, look for aggravating and mitigating factors.
Teresa Livingston for the record. Mitigating would be, that he did reach out to his supervisors. He expressed in his testimony today and then documents inside the investigation that he did, was going through a rough personal time and did reach out to supervisors for assistance at the time. I would say aggravating, would be that even though he did that and he stated today that he didn't know what else to do, he could have talked to HR, take a leave of absence, rather than continue to do the work and then not do it to his full capacity. There's multiple areas that he just failed to do his duties as a police officer and what should be expected of him, not only by his agency, but by the citizens of Oregon.
Kevin Dresser for the record. Mitigating is, again, taking into account what he's going through in his personal life, obviously his statements here today. I have concern as just a working cop myself when these deficiencies are there, they're documented in the report and approved by a supervisor. Sometimes I wonder about that. They're proving the work that he documented and then this coming after the fact. So, and it's a supervisor, I guess, that was video or trying to catch him doing this stuff versus interceding and maybe redirecting to do more complete work. So obviously I'm just taking his word. I don't know how much of it's an investigation for what responses he got with peer support, but that's concerning also.
Casey Connie for the record. I would add that his testimony today is mitigating. He accepts that there's several performance-based concerns in this matter, and he owns the kind of the overall position he was in life at that time, and the loss of sleep, and yeah, I just feel like this is largely performance driven, as he mentioned, versus a reckless or intentional act to deceive or be dishonest.
Kevin Dresser again for the record. It's exactly how it comes across to me in this. He is 3 years, not a long time, and then you put in sleep deprivation and what was going on in his personal life. Yeah, I didn't see him intentionally being dishonest. It was just poor performance at the time. There's no getting around that, which in his statements he admits to.
Robert, for the record, there's a fine line between integrity, the lack of integrity and dishonesty, and I'm going to mirror committee member Dresser's that this is full of a lack of integrity. It's a derelict of duty as a public member that really concerns me. And as committee member Livingston said, he had the option to take a leave, which is very concerning. So I'm leaning towards of the three, the arson and the backpack situation is serious concern for misconduct. And I too think the dishonesty claim on the attempt to locate was not intentional. I didn't see a motive for doing that. So that's kind of a mix of mitigating and aggravating for you.
And I'll just, Kevin Dressler there, I'll just kind of revoice my concern that I think there potentially is opportunities to redirect and correct these things. And I don't see where that was done. I see where reports documenting that it wasn't sufficiently being done were approved, and he wasn't redirected. So these reports are brief and not lengthy. They should have been caught during the same shift and addressed then, and none of them were. So that's problematic.
Mark Daniel for the record. So, Kevin, what I'm hearing is that that's mitigating to you.
That is mitigating to me.
That those reports that we read were approved by a field supervisor shortly after the incidents had occurred, and that what I'm also hearing is that, and I believe that there was action to be taken at the time versus waiting for a collection.
Anything further? Okay. We'll ask for a review of mitigating.
Okay. Marie Atwood for the record. The mitigating circumstances included the following. He reached out to his supervisors and expressed that he was going through a rough time during this period and asked for assistance. The statements he made today regarding what was happening in his personal life were found to be mitigating. There did not seem to be an effort on the supervisor's part to redirect or remediate the deficiencies at the time. Instead, they were noted in reports that were reviewed and approved by supervision. The testimony provided today also reflected that Mr. McNichols accepted and admitted those performance concerns and took ownership over those. This appears to be largely performance-based rather than an intentional act or actions. The dishonesty in particular was noted by the committee to not appear intentional. That's what I have for mitigating.
Okay. Is there a consensus on those factors as listed?
I still have some aggravating ones.
Oh, you're sorry.
Yes. As long as I didn't miss anything glaringly on mitigating factors. The aggravating factors are noted to be the following. Mr. McNichols stated that he didn't know what else to do during his testimony today. However, there were some obvious options, including taking leave or going to human resources instead of continuing to clock in and fail at achieving duties in an appropriate way. There was a pattern of this and was noted to be beyond the line of integrity, so there was a pattern of lacking integrity, and it was noted that the arson and hotel backpack search incidents in particular were very concerning derelictions of duty. That's what I have for aggravating factors.
Okay, is there a consensus on aggravating and mitigating as listed? Okay, now we'll move into a discussion about the moral fitness violation categories we can affirm, modify, or negate.
Robert Wood for the record, I would make a motion to modify the moral fitness violation, strike dishonesty, and leave misconduct as written.
Cotting will second.
All right, we are voting on a motion to modify the moral fitness violations as presented to remove dishonesty, but keep the other. Vice Chair Connie?
Aye.
Committee Member Sarek?
Aye.
Committee Member Damon?
Aye.
Committee Member Jovic?
Aye.
Committee Member Dresser?
Aye.
Committee Member Duncan,
Aye.
Committee Member Livingston,
Aye.
Committee Member Lofton,
Aye.
and Committee Member Wood. Motion passed.
Okay, we're left with misconduct. It's 3 to 10 years. And it's a date of
Start date for the ineligibility period in this case would be April 24th, 2023. It's Marie Abbott for record.
okay. So we're looking for a recommendation to take action or no action. And just to be clear, the date and eligibility period would be a separate vote to the action or no action. It'll come later.
Robert Wood for the record, I'm gonna make a motion that we take action.
I second that. Patty Lofgren, I second that.
Right, we are voting on a motion to take action. Vice Chair Potter?
Aye.
Committee Member Sarek?
Aye.
Committee Member Daniel?
Aye.
Committee Member Jovic?
Aye.
Committee Member Dresser?
Aye.
Committee Member Duncan?
Aye.
Committee Member Livingston?
Aye.
Committee Member Lofton?
Aye.
And Committee Member Wood? Motion passed.
Okay, now it's time to discuss ineligibility period. And I will open according to the record, based on the misconduct as written, I believe that is what occurred in this case. However, the bulk of the mitigating information brings me down to the lower end of this spectrum. So at the moment, I'm considering 3 years.
Livingston for the record, I agree with that. I would definitely be on the lower end based on all the mitigating factors.
Kevin Dresser for the record, I would agree with that. The missteps, how it falls under misconduct, and that given the time that he had been, even though was a new officer, there were other opportunities to seek out with an agency that size, other opportunities for additional training or different ways around dealing with what he was dealing with at the time.
Okay, so we're looking for a motion, a second on suggested eligibility.
First Livingston, I make a motion for 3 years.
Mark Daniel for the record, I second.
We are voting on a motion for a 3-year ineligibility period. Vice Chair Potter?
Aye.
Committee Member Sarek?
Aye.
Committee Member Daniel?
Aye.
Committee Member Jovic?
Aye.
Committee Member Dresser?
Aye.
Committee Member Duncan?
Aye.
Committee Member Livingston?
Aye.
Committee Member Lofton?
Aye.
Committee Member Wood? Motion passed.
Thanks, sir.
Thank you, guys.
Does anybody need a break before we bring in?
Yes.
Take 5 minutes.
Yeah.
Translating.
Yeah.
And we will bring in our next case, Mr. McQueen.
Whatsoever.
Sit down? Yes, please. Thank you. Okay, Mr. McQueen, we'll get started. When it is time, you'll have 5 minutes to present your case, and we won't be taking any questions. And before we do that, we'll have DPSSD start with the case. Thank you.
Thank you very much. This is Marie Atwood for the record. The department opened a professional standards case after receiving a separation form from the Hillsborough Police Department that indicated on December 15th of 2022, Officer McQueen resigned. There had been an investigation regarding Mr. McQueen's truthfulness when he called in sick on 3 consecutive days in August of 2022. The background of this incident is as follows. In February of 2021, Officer McQueen was involved in an on-duty incident that resulted in injuries. After that, there was an active workers' compensation claim, and he was reassigned to light duty. In March of 2022, Officer McQueen's wife purchased tickets to an event out of state that Officer McQueen intended not to go with her to, instead preferring to work during that time. However, on August 8th of 2022, Officer McQueen's wife purchased a ticket for him to attend the event. While in Texas with his family attending the event, he called in sick using what is referred to as family sick leave for Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday of the week in question. Officer McQueen stated that he did so because he was mentally, emotionally, and physically ill along with his family as a result of the incident back in February of 2021 that led to his light duty assignment. When asked for more specific circumstances surrounding calling in sick, Officer McQueen stated he decided a couple of days before the trip that he was going to call in utilizing family sick time. It was indisputed that he did not have the accruals to use vacation time or other approved leaves during this trip. McQueen stated he could have taken unpaid leave, but he felt using sick time was most appropriate. He told investigators he did not speak to a supervisor about his options because he was aware he had no time accruals left to use other than sick leave. Although Officer McQueen stated that the family member in question who was sick was his spouse, he was not able to explain any need for medical care at that time. Facebook posts also showed Officer McQueen at the event in Texas in social settings with his wife. Hillsborough Police Department in their investigation also noted that Officer McQueen confirmed to them he knew he was unable to use any accrued time due to not having any in order to attend this event in Texas with his wife. HPD determined that Officer McQueen knowingly or willfully was dishonest or untruthful when he gave a statement about his reasons for needing time off and did so to a supervisor over the phone for 3 consecutive days. After this investigation concluded, the information was forwarded to the Washington County District Attorney's Office for a Brady designation review. In September of 2023, a senior deputy district attorney wrote a letter to HPD's chief stating that Officer McQueen had been designated as a, quote, additional discovery witness pursuant to their discovery and disclosure policies for state representative witnesses. Therefore, as a result of the dishonesty finding in this case, the materials provided by Hillsborough Police would then be provided to any defense counsel who requested them in future criminal matters in which Officer McQueen is a witness. The department found that the conduct presented violates the board's moral fitness standards for dishonesty. McQueen was intentionally dishonest when he misrepresented the truth about his use of sick time in order to attend an event in Texas, and for misconduct. Officer McQueen engaged in misconduct when he was intentionally dishonest about his use of sick time, resulting in an improper use of HPD and City of Hillsborough resources relating to benefits. Back to you, Vice Chair.
Okay, thank you. All right, Mr. McQueen, you have 5 minutes when you're ready.
Okay, thank you. I'm here today to defend my honesty and integrity that Hillsborough is saying that is in question. So I'm happily married for 15 years. I have 5 kiddos. My honesty and integrity means everything to me as it does how it affects them and how I presented myself with work up until this accident. So prior to my injury on February 6th, where I was crushed between 2 cars, fractured my leg, tore ligaments in my ankle, which ended up in years of recovery, physical therapy, all those kind of things. I showed the utmost integrity, honesty in everything that I did, and grit in everything that I did by being appointed to the positions of PTO, of CNU, of a recruiter, ORPAT instructor, all these other things that wouldn't have happened if my integrity was ever something that was thought to be an issue. So all those things leading up to 5.5 years, on this day, February 6th, where I was injured and crushed between those 2 cars, I went to the hospital, I was misdiagnosed, they missed the fracture, they missed the torn ligaments. For the next month, I was doing physical therapy, where I was like, hey doc, something is wrong, can we get this checked out? About a month later, also this is prime COVID time, so about a month later, they're like, hey, we got this stuff back, I don't know how you're walking, you have a fractured leg, you have fractured ligaments, all these, or torn ligaments, all these things. So I started going in recovery, ended up on light duty. My light duty time went crazy long. Having missed the injuries initially set me back crazy. I had nerve damage in my ankle, I had all kinds of things going on. The medications they were giving me, for like pain, for nerve blockers, for all this other stuff, I didn't know at the time, but I realized later, gave me all kinds of brain fog. I had trouble basically just being who I was. I was going down in the dumps. I wasn't the dad, the coach for all my kiddos that I had always been. I wasn't able to be there. For my wife, as much as I would like to. Unfortunately for her, she got to see the downfall of all these things, right? Me kind of just going down mentally, physically, relearning how to walk, like, it was a lot. During this time I'm on desk duty, I come back to Hillsborough, and I want to be the same person I was, so I'm like, yes, I'll take this extra duty. I took an extra duty of background investigator. Worst thing I could have did, I told them this in all the interviews too, that like I should have just went back to my team, my people. I couldn't focus, brain fog, kept going down the dumps, went to all my physical therapy appointments, all my things, doctors were saying no good, until eventually I got a doctor's note that said, hey, you're not going to be able to be a cop anymore. You have this nerve damage, you have these issues. I turned these into Hillsborough on July 6th. From the next month, I'm reaching out to Hillsborough, hey, how do we get this handled? How do we get this fixed? What's the next steps? I'm in all this turmoil, like, now I can't be a cop again. How do I take care of my family? All these things, all this more added stress. So my wife is dealing with that, my family's dealing with that. She gets the opportunity to go to this event. It's Tony Robbins. If anyone is familiar with him, he is the mindset guru. So thankfully, she's smarter than I and was able to recognize things in me that I couldn't. So it was like a come to Jesus moment of like, here's this event. I bought these tickets for you. I know you don't know about it. I was working 410s. I got off on a Saturday, and she told me like, hey, we're leaving Monday to go to this thing. Here's where it is. It's in Texas. We're going to this. So I was like, okay, I can't be a cop anymore. I already got that information. This is the next best thing to try to figure out, like, how to get myself out of dumps, how to take care of my family. So we went to this social event, or the Tony Robbins event. There was a picture taken of us because we were happy in that moment. She posted it because we were happy in that moment. that's what Hillsborough Grafton is talking about. My family was not there, it was just my wife and I. My kiddos were with family. Then I retained a workers' comp attorney. A month or a couple weeks after my workers' comp attorney is when this IA came. I only have a little bit of time, so I just want to say that at no point did I ever try to defraud anyone or take sick time when I didn't have it. If I didn't have it, I figured I would just go on paid leave. This time I didn't think I was going to be a cop. And since then, I've worked so hard to get back physically, mentally, emotionally, so I can go back into it and become the cop that I was before. Thank you.
Okay. We will start with looking for a consensus to adopt the record as presented. Okay, we have consensus. Any objections? Seeing none, we will start with aggravating and mitigating factors.
Michelle Duncan for the record. I think mitigating is that clearly he was going through some distress during those times with his injury. Aggravating, however, is that I find it hard to believe that there wasn't some intentional dishonesty based on the fact that he didn't communicate with his supervisors what was going on. He also didn't take the leave all at once. He called in 3 separate times saying that he needed another day, well knowing that he was in a different state and wouldn't be able to show up the next day. He knew he was out of time. He had used unpaid leave in the past, but did not ask for that during this incident.
Mark Daniel for the record. I believe there's several aggravating factors here. Number one, he'd been a police officer for several years, was clearly aware of Hillsborough's police policy and the proper procedure for calling in sick, what sick time would have been allowed, what wasn't, or what those issues might have been allowed under sick time. And the other aggravating factor for me is that District Attorney Barton did write a letter basically saying that he was an additional discovery witness and would have to bring this issue before any defense attorney or any situation where he might be testifying in court in Washington County.
Teresa Livingston for the record. I'm gonna take for those things kind of one step further. So the mitigating is based on his testimony and things in the record about the distress and about how he took the sick leave because he felt like it was that what he was going to Texas for was in line with what the department would find is okay for the use of that sick leave. If that is true in the moment, then he would have had no issues whatsoever with having a conversation and telling that on the forefront, and maybe even making sure, or if he was in a gray area on if it was okay or not, having a conversation with the supervisor and saying, hey, I feel like this is why I'm here, this is why I'm doing it, I need this for my well-being. And so that's why I lean more towards it was intentional, because he didn't do any of those things. Although the mitigating factor is I do believe he was in stress. That's a lot of stuff going on in his life and what had occurred to him. And so I think he missed an opportunity to have that conversation with his supervisor.
Connie, for the record, I found his testimony to be mitigating on-the-job injury, significant rehab, mentioned medication, family stress. There's a lot of things going. He just learned that a doctor had suggested he would no longer be in this profession. So I find it mitigating all of that. I also find it aggravating, as mentioned, the opportunities he had. However, as he mentioned, in that moment, it sure looks like, he's there in a positive, environment at this event. But as he mentioned, we don't know what's going on behind the scenes as well, and all of that stuff is mitigating to me. Anything further? Okay, seeing none, we'll review.
Sure. Marie Atwood for the record. Aggravating circumstances include, it's hard to believe that there wasn't a level of intentional dishonesty because of the following reasons. He did not communicate anything to supervisors regarding leave questions at the time. Instead of requesting the leave all in one swoop, he asked on 3 consecutive days to use this form of leave for this type of trip. He was aware that he was out of accrued time and knew he could have tried to get unpaid leave due to having used unpaid leave in the past. Another aggravating factor was the length of service. A police officer for many years and was clearly aware of the leave policies of his particular agency. Aggravating also was the fact that the district attorney of Washington County wrote the Brady notice. This will come up anytime this officer testifies or is involved in future cases. Even if, according to the testimony provided today, there could have been a reasonable belief that this type of leave fell within the parameters of the agency's view on sick time, there was a missed opportunity or multiple missed opportunities where he could have or should have spoken to someone about it prior to requesting that leave or classifying it in that way. Mitigating circumstances include the difficult life distress he was experiencing at the time due to his significant injuries. The testimony provided today that he felt that the sick leave request would be in line with the sick leave policy and what he was experiencing. And also in the testimony today, there were significant understandable stressors, not just relating to injuries, but family life, work life, including the possible end of his career that led to the actions taken. Unless I missed something, that's all I have.
Okay. Do we need a consensus on the review of that? Yes, so looking for consensus. Okay. We will discuss the moral fitness violation categories where we can affirm, modify, and negate. In this case, we have dishonesty and misconduct.
I would make a motion to affirm both dishonesty and misconduct.
Mark Daniel for the record, I second.
Great, we are voting on a motion to affirm the moral fitness violations as presented. Vice Chair Cotton?
Aye.
Committee Member Sarek?
Aye.
Committee Member Daniel?
Aye.
Committee Member Jovic?
Aye.
Committee Member Dresser?
Aye.
Committee Member Duncan?
Aye.
Committee Member Livingston?
Aye.
Committee Member Lockton?
Aye.
And Committee Member Wood?
Aye.
Motion passed.
Any discussion on that motion? Or seeing none? So we're at the point where we can, looking for a recommendation for action or no action on this matter. And it would, it's a 3 to 10 year, actually 3 to lifetime on this case. So first, let's start with recommendation for action or no action.
Chris Jovic for the record. My recommendation is action.
Kevin Dresser, I'd second that.
Voting on a motion to take action. Vice Chair Cotton?
Aye.
Committee Member Sarek?
Aye.
Committee Member Daniel?
Aye.
Committee Member Jovic?
Aye.
Committee Member Dresser?
Aye.
Committee Member Duncan?
Aye.
Committee Member Livingston?
Aye.
Committee Member Lockton?
Aye.
And Committee Member Wood?
Aye.
Motion passed.
Okay, regarding the ineligibility period, again, it's 3 years to a lifetime. Looking for discussion.
Starting December 15th, 2022.
Marie Atwood for the record. December 15th, 2022 is the correct date. I would just note there is a sentence a little ways up on that same page, page 303 of the staff report, that notes the separation was on December 8th. That's just when the settlement agreement was signed, so the operative date is December 15th.
Connie, for the record, I will just give some reference why I'm leaning towards a lesser period. When I look at ERB decisions and other evaluations of sick leave, especially in the state of Oregon, there is oftentimes room for interpretation. So the one area in this that I do think that there was dishonesty in this matter, but I think there's enough gray area there with the intentionality of it. And based on how I know a lot of this is looked at in employment settings, I'm leaning towards the lower end of our scale.
Patty Lofgren for the record. I'm going to agree with you. And one of the reasons that I'm agreeing for the lesser is just the level and degree of injury and the results of that in his life. So I'm going to agree with you on that. Thank you.
Robert for the record.
No.
Robert for the record, I'll remember with the record. And I think the outcome would have been the same if he had gone for an MFMLA claim of leave or using the sick leave. It still would have been granted at that time. It's just the way he went about it that affirms the dishonesty claim. So I am too leaning towards the lesser end of the available time of revocation.
Teresa Livingston for the record. That's kind of where I was going a little bit with what it, I'm gonna make a motion for a 3-year, and mine is basically what I said. I do think that there was some intentionality in there, but the gray area and the missed opportunity that I think he just was, I in good conscience, I think I wanna make the motion for 3 years.
Kevin Dresser, I would second the motion.
And no further conversation?
We are voting on a motion for a 3-year ineligibility period. Vice Chair Connie?
Aye.
Committee Member Sarek?
Aye.
Committee Member Daniel?
Nay.
Committee Member Jovic?
Aye.
Committee Member Dresser?
Aye.
Committee Member Duncan?
Nay.
Committee Member Livingston?
Aye.
Committee Member Lofgren?
Aye.
And Committee Member Wood?
Aye.
Motion passed.
Thank you. Feel free to go.
Thank you, guys.
Okay. We are ready to turn it over to Director Castle for agency updates.
Thank you, Mr. Vice Chair. Phil Castle for the record. First and always, I just want to thank you all. I was called to a meeting down in Southern Oregon to discuss with some chiefs and local law enforcement leadership the speed in which these cases occur. And on my way down, I brought those books with me, right? And it doesn't mean that we don't have opportunity to speed this process up and make it more efficient, but we have to consider our board and their able to consume, their ability to consume this information and make good decisions. If we were to give you 7 stacks of what you have in front of you, that wouldn't be effective. But we are looking at ways to be more efficient and how could we possibly do this. I got a call yesterday, you might find this interesting, from a person named Manny Alvarez. and Manny Alvarez is the post director for California. And in the recent 3 years, they now have the authority to start reviewing certifications like Oregon does. So he contacted me, and he's having the same exact problem. He says, "Phil, tell me how to do this better." And I'm like, I don't know. I don't know. It's a lot of information, and their system is very similar to ours. So thank you very much for your time, your effort. You all have been very considerate today, and your deliberations are awesome, and that makes it for a very rich and meaningful record, which is what the public is looking for. So I really want to appreciate that. I also want to thank the staff very much for all of this work. There's so much, as you can see, that goes into this, and they take this very, very seriously in the work that they do. So thank you very much for the effort that you all put into this. In terms of agency updates, most of it is going to be budget right now, and I'll talk about that in just a minute. That's been the highlight of every state agency for the last several months. But what I do kind of want to bring up, we had Fire Policy Committee yesterday, and I brought this up. I sit on a statewide committee, which is also a public meeting, called the Law Enforcement Standards of Conduct and Discipline. You all may be familiar with that. It's a guide that is produced that has standards of discipline for law enforcement officers on the employment side. And when you sit in committee and you are considering the cases before you, these lines get really blurry. They get really, really blurry. And when I sit on this committee and we review these standards, there's often asks of, hey, well, let's just mirror the DPSST language for certification. And I am staunchly resisting that and keeping a clear line between employment law and employment standards and moral fitness. And I'm the one on the council that is constantly saying there are three oversights of a law enforcement officer's career. And I got this from Eric's, by the way, that I still talk to. And one is the color of law which they serve under. So for example, whether you're a trooper, whether you're municipal, or whether you're a deputy in a sheriff's department, different responsibilities, different, areas in which you all oversee. And then there's the employment law, which is the super gray area because we are triggered by employment. DPSST authority over an officer's career is triggered by employment and employment actions. And then there's the licensure. And the licensure is really our oversight. And it's about the person's integrity and character and morals that are all associated with public trust. Has this person violated a trust to the public? And can they serve under that license, under those other two sets of authority? And that is the way I've had to arrange this in my brain as I do this. And you all are constantly dealing with that also in the work that you're doing on this committee, which is super, super challenging. But I just wanted to share that, and as you all deliberate and discuss, I run that through my head. On to the budget issue. So a lot of you already know this, what I'm about to say. There was an announcement, a public announcement, that the state was in a budget shortfall of $373 million in general fund. And this was a direct correlation between federal tax code and Oregon State's linkage to that federal tax code. We are automatically linked to that federal tax code. And therefore, the state economist plugs all this into his systems and spits out like this is the shortfall that we were projecting to the end of the biennium. Which caused the government and the legislature to act, caused the governor to say, hey, we need to put in some cost-saving measures, which we all immediately did as state agencies. We reacted quickly to put in cost-saving measures, like reducing our out-of-state travel and things of that nature. Anywhere we could save, we we started doing overtime, those kinds of things. And also the legislature asked us to do what's called 5% exercise, which is looking at in increments of 2.5% ways in which we could cut our budgets and still support our core missions. And we did go through that exercise. Every state agency did that, submitted that to the legislature. Testimony was heard over the last 3 days, ending yesterday. There was 3 legislative days, 17th through the 19th. And some agencies were called to testify. I believe our own vice chair testified to those what those cuts would mean. DPSST was not called to testify over those cuts. And subsequently yesterday, there was another economic forecast released yesterday, which was substantially better than the last one, down to a $6 million or $67 million shortfall. So a reduction by $300 million. Although it may be temporary, there is some missing data into the formula because of the federal shutdown. But February's economic forecast will be more telling. There'll be more data to support a more accurate forecast. I will also throw in there that the true impact to HR1, or more commonly known as the Big Beautiful Bill, isn't totally known yet, and its overall impact. There is a projection of a $15 billion impact over the next 3 biennia, but it's not truly known yet. But what I want you to know is that DPSST will guard carefully within that, whatever we are told to execute, we will guard carefully our core missions. And we will always preserve that to the best of our ability. That is my big update for this committee, but I want to hold space for any questions that you may have of me.
Director, is our expansion still on hold, the campus expansion?
That's a great question. We received a couple of POPs, and we received monies to do a study for the expansion. We received $500,000 to do this study. We will retain that money to do that study, and not only are we going to do the study, but we are going to do things that will prep the campus to be able to be expanded. So for example, land, when you build on land in Salem, you are required to have a certain amount of water retention, right? Per acre, you should retain X amount of water. We retain barely enough water for the buildings that we have on this campus. And there is a strategy that an engineer has given us that has worked on, he worked on the initial design of this place to retain more water, and it's a relatively low cost project that we'll be doing to build up down in the track area, an area to retain much more water, which would then allow us to add more buildings without having to worry about that in the future. So we still have the monies to do the study. We also still have the monies to do the learning management system. Those won't be taken from us. We've been assured that, we've been directed to go forward on that. So we are going to go forward with the installation of the learning management system.
Outstanding, okay. No other questions. Juan, can you remind us of the next meeting date?
Next meeting takes place on February 19th, 2026.
Okay, so after the new year. Thank you all for participation. It was a good discussion today. Thank you to all the staff. This is a lot of work, as mentioned. And we have lunch waiting, so we will adjourn unless you go.
Oh, Chair, I'm sorry. I have a very important thing to talk about. I'm sorry. So I have 2 awards. Unfortunately, we have 2 of our members who are terming out. And unfortunately, one is not here with us today. But I do want to talk about both of them. First, I want to talk about Kevin Dresser. And in my time here, which is headed towards 3 years now, Kevin has been always super considerate, and I appreciate the deliberation of what you've brought to this organization, to this committee, how considerate and careful you are. I can tell by the look on your face how meaningful this is to you and the gravity of how you consider these things. So I am very grateful for that, and DPSST is grateful for that. So I wanted to provide you with this, and thank you for your service.
All right, thank you very much.
Yeah. The other one who couldn't be with us here, and this lady is awesome. I have a great relationship with her, Sheriff Brandenburg. We have this 6th degree of separation between she and I, which is really interesting. I know her niece, and I know her niece because we deployed together to combat, and I've trained her niece since she was a young private in the military, and she will be retiring here at the same rank I was in the military, and it's really cool that we have that 6th degree of separation. But also, Sheriff Brandenburg, as well as being an agency leader and extremely busy in her work, is very committed to this academy, very committed to this this board and policy committee, and she's given a whole lot to us. I'm super grateful for her service, and we'll be getting this to her. So just want to say thanks to both of you. Thanks, Mr. Vice Chair.
Okay, thank you. Congratulations. Okay, with that, we'll adjourn the police policy committee meeting. Thank you.